So looking at ad accounts is a big part of my day-to-day. I look at ad accounts across our existing clients, and I'm also involved in a lot of auditing and pitching. Our account structure and our best practice account structure is tied to the marketing funnel. So awareness, consideration, conversion, and loyalty. And we want that structure in place because it really is the backbone to your account. We want to target each of those audiences very differently in terms of the creative that we serve them and what we optimize towards, because we want an account structure in place that nurtures a user down from the awareness stage of the funnel all the way down to conversion. In audits, I see a lot of accounts that, they don't align to the marketing funnel, or they just have no structure at all. An account can be over-segmented in many ways. It can be over-segmented in the campaign structure. It can be over-segmented in the approach to audiences. It can be over-segmented in the approach to platforms. The problem with over-segmenting the approach is that, over the last few years, paid social has got broader and broader. A simple account structure is just better. It's better for performance, it's better for reporting, and it's better for transferring your holistic brand strategy from other channels onto paid social. An account can be over-segmented in a couple of ways. It can be over-segmented by the number of campaigns that you use. It can be over-segmented in terms of audience overlap. It can be over-segmented in terms of breaking out ad sets by placement. So the problem with over-segmentation is that you can target the same audience in different campaigns, and overall it just leads to budget wastage, and it's not the best way to manage an ad account. I think optimization types are probably the number one thing that come up in an audit for me. The most common pitfall being that I can't tell you how many audit slides probably begin with "Don't use a sales optimization throughout the funnel." Using a sales optimization on accounts that don't have the data means that a lot of the account spends a lot of time in learning mode. Learning phase is a measure of whether my campaign has enough data. Can I get out of learning mode? Can it really optimize into the audiences, the age ranges, the genders that work for the brand? The learning phase is a measure of whether your campaign's optimized. Do they have the right level of data? And the failure to get out of the learning phase means that your campaigns are just going to be less efficient, and you're going to see less efficient metrics, and your CPAs in general are going to be higher. Yeah, demographics are a bit of a sticking point for me. When I think about demographics, I want a meta ad account to really represent your brand's target demographic. The data that we see in GA, or maybe it's information that you've got from Mosaic profiles, really that should align into our demographic targeting. The most common pitfall, and the thing that really gets to me, is that Meta loves to optimize to mature audiences or over 65s. I'm not really sure why. I think that they're just way less cynical and they're not as digitally savvy, so they're more likely to click on ads. So if you're optimizing towards link clicks, it optimizes towards the cheapest traffic. And often that is that plus 65 demographic. So I'd encourage you to use breakdowns, see whether your meta targeting is aligning with GA. Frequency is a measure of how many times someone's seen your ad. So it's a cumulative metric, which means if I look back over the last 30 days, I'll see how many times did someone see an ad over the last 30 days. And it's really a measure of budget wastage. Often in accounts, I see frequencies that are ridiculous. So, 40 times in the last 30 days. No one needs to see an ad 40 times to convert. And you really need to be, on top of it so you're not wasting your budget. As a benchmark and awareness, you might want to see a frequency of 2 to 3. In a lower funnel campaign, you don't really want to go above 10. Creative is a difficult one because it's probably the most subjective thing in an ad account. Everyone really has an opinion of what makes good creative and how creative should represent the brand. But objectively speaking, there are a few things that you need to look out for. So number one, it all ties back to that marketing funnel. Are you personalizing creative by funnel stage? Someone in awareness really needs to see a different ad format to someone in conversion. Often in ad accounts, I see a general lack of testing. So that could be ad formats. They're using something like DPAs throughout the funnel, which no one really wants their brand to be represented by a dynamic product ad just showing, a shoe that you sell. So really you need to be tailoring that creative to the funnel stage. So as an agency, we need to make the most of what we can control, which often isn't the creative direction. We need to make sure that we're utilizing our primary text, our headlines, our descriptions, to make sure that all of your brand USPs are transferred into the ads that we show. So A/B testing is probably a bit of a controversial one. People will have an opinion on whether you should A/B test or just let Meta optimize towards what it thinks works. In my opinion, you need to have a bit of a balance between A/B testing the things that really matter, and in some cases, just letting go of that control and allowing Meta to optimize to what works best. The problem that I have is when I look at an account and there's not a single experiment that's been run, over the last 3 years. There are some things in an account that should be split tested, such as optimization types. And I also think in an account, there are some things I want certainty over. And I want to know that, the result is the result, and it's not just Meta pushing things into what thinks works best, because Meta learns very quickly, and once it gets a grasp on something that it sees working well, it pushes all of the volume into that. So for me, A/B testing is important because it verifies the result, and it also means that if I want to share that result across a wider business, I know that it's the correct one. Pixels are really important, but they're also a very time-consuming thing to audit. It often sits with the agency, or it can sit with a tech team client side. Pixels are a very important thing to get right, and something that we want to get right during onboarding, especially because, if we don't spot these things and it comes up 6 months later, it's a problem. So it's really important during those initial stages during onboarding that you verify everything in the pixel is tracking correctly. And we do this through Pixel Helper. We use Events Manager to, we can get a judge on what does look right and what doesn't. We're not tech experts, but there are tools that we can use, and we have audits in place to showcase to a client that something isn't firing correctly. One quite niche thing is that we often see content IDs within the pixel and content IDs within the feed don't match up. It's quite niche, but it's really important, because if they don't align, it means that we can't actually show the product that someone's viewed on site to the person in the ad. Applying account exclusions, so applying a past purchaser exclusion to any new user activity, is important because the creative that we show to that audience is very different. We're trying to get something very different out of a new user versus an existing customer. Without an exclusion in place, you're liable to show past purchases stuff that really isn't relevant anymore. It means that you're making the most of your budget. There are certainly caveats to it. So if you're not targeting past purchases at all in your account, then you should discuss whether you want that exclusion in place, because you're potentially excluding a very valuable audience from your entire ad account. My question to you would be, if you're not targeting existing customers within their own campaign, then why not? Because that's an incredibly valuable audience, and paid social is a very valuable tool to create brand advocates and drive lifetime value. UTMs are important because they allow you to track your meta activity in Google Analytics. I don't trust Meta at the best of times, so I want a secondary source of truth. I want to be able to see the quality of my traffic. So Meta might say that it's good, that it's got amazing conversion rate, but if someone lands on the website and the bounce rate's 100%, they're spending 2 seconds on site instead of something like a minute, I know that Meta's lying, and that the quality of traffic isn't as good and Meta is implying. UTMs are important because they allow us to track Meta campaign performance in Google Analytics. I could keep going. There are lots of things in the ad accounts that I look at, that cause me stress. Hopefully this list gives you a good starting point of the things I look at when I'm measuring and auditing an account.